And one of the questions was, can you start the video of the baby whale? And there was this Dutch guy, and he said, it's a strange name for a baby.
Welcome to nohacks.show, a weekly podcast in which smart people talk to you about better online experiences. Today we're talking about not testing. Yeah, not testing. You heard that right. We're talking about not testing on this podcast. And to do that, I have a guest who has been announced as one of the most entertaining speakers I've had the privilege to learn and laugh with. He's also been described as just as fun and enlightening as Els Arts, his partner at AG Consult. And if that is not a high bar to clear, I don't know what is. So Karl Gilis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. But you said something about all these smart people. So what am I doing here?
Oh, come on. No. We're not doing that. My first question for you, it's an important question from what I've heard, is what does a baby whale have to do with user testing?
Is that one coming from else?
I don't know, maybe.
It was one of our first user tests we did, and it was for Microsoft. It was their multimedia system, something Windows, whatever, 98 or something. And we were there in the rooms, but luckily enough, we were both in a forward room. So the participant was in a separate room, and we asked the questions through a microphone. And one of the questions was, but mind you, the questions were made, I think, by Microsoft America, and it was like, okay, can you start the video of the baby whale? And there was this Dutch guy, and he said like, whale, that's a strange name for a baby. I started laughing. I was so happy that I was in a full room. But I have to run out because the people from Microsoft, they were really looking at me like, what the fuck? But I couldn't stop laughing for 5 or 10 minutes. It was like, baby whale. Oh, that's a strange name for a baby. Okay.
That's amazing.
So that proof that, yes, you have to prepare interview questions. And you have to
that's such a
try
cool
to run them.
I only had the question. I didn't know what the answer would be.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
So it was like,
thank you so much for the laugh. Now, I have one more, and this one is from me. So I saw your slides from Conversion Hotel, and there's something you don't like about websites, one particular element. But let's put you in a scenario, hypothetical scenario. You meet an eccentric scientist. Let's call him Doc. Doc tells you he stole some plutonium from Libyan terrorists. If you get into his DeLorean, you can go back in time and try to convince the person who invented the web sliders, the carousels, never to do it. What's your pitch to that person? How would that movie play out?
How would the movie play out? I think bad for him because I'm not a negotiator. I will I don't know. But and yes, I hate sliders, but it's not only the sliders. It's the idea behind sliders, because that's what really frustrates me. And so it's not the guy or the person, we don't know if it's a guy or girl, that for the first time used sliders, but it's the continuing story of the same crap. Because before sliders, and this is only people like me that are really, really old, that will remember it, we had something like Flash. And we had like websites with Flash intros. So you came to a website and there was like first like a 20 or 30 second things going on. And then we were like, the usability was like, this is crap, you should delete it from your website. And then somebody came up with the sliders, because marketing people, apparently, they always want their website to be dynamic and funny. And then we killed the sliders. For most websites, the usability people, UX people, try to convince everybody in the world sliders are bad. They still exist, but on most websites they disappear. But then the designers came up with the video backgrounds. But that's the same shit. And now the video backgrounds have gone for most websites, although even 2 weeks ago, we had a question like, oh, what do you have against video backgrounds? But there will be some other shit coming up. And that's the problem. The problem is not the sliders. The problem is the idea behind it. Why do we always want to make something that apparently we, as marketing people, not talking about me, like, but that is not good for our visitors, our customers. And that's my fight for 25 years now.
Oh,
and not only about sliders, because the sliders is also just one example. There are so many things that go wrong on websites.
But when you say sliders, video backgrounds, we're talking about elements that are introducing complexity that is not necessary.
Yeah, it's visual clutter.
Yeah.
And it's not answering the needs of the visitor. It's answering the need of a company. Like, yeah, we want to show off. And I think the main problem behind that is that a lot of marketing people are involved with the websites, and they don't see the difference between advertising, which, like, for most of the time, it's not my specialism. It's like a cry for attention. It's like your banner on the other website, even your Google ads, they should attract my attention. It's like your radio commercial, TV commercial, they should attract my attention. They should guide me to your website, your store, your landing page, whatever. But once I, as a visitor, I am on your website, you don't have to shout for attention anymore, but you have to give attention to my needs as a user. And that's a completely different mindset. And it's so important to really understand that your website is not a visual show-off. I'm not saying it should be ugly, not at all. It should be good, in line with your branding, but it should fulfill the customer needs and answer the questions.
I'm 100% with you. I'm 100% with you on that. Give me a plain text website rather than some visual crap. I'm not even joking.
Me neither. I was just thinking about that's like 20, maybe even longer than 20 years ago. We did a test. It was not an A/B test. That in those days the software didn't exist. That we had like this, because then I had some content websites. So it was before AG Consult, the agency. So we live from advertising, from companies. And they always made these banners and also animated GIFs like, and we did some testing where we replaced those banners just with like text banners. The clicks on those banners were so much higher because
it breaks the pattern. It breaks the pattern, basically. It
breaks the pattern, and it's like,
One thing I saw on LinkedIn last week, but I cannot credit the author because I don't remember, is they tested plain text emails versus like visual marketing emails.
Yeah, of course.
And they were blown away by how well the plain text
always works better. Well, most of the time, it's one of those things we always do. And every time the client's like, oh, no. And we're like, yeah, that's right. Now you don't want it. Just try do it.
Yep.
And it's also incredible and we also see it when we open our mailbox for those people. It's like, oh, you're one of those people who have those, the images not all by default. And it's like, yeah, but most people are like us. They're not marketeers who want to see the shizzle going on. And sometimes if you look at an email, sometimes the main call to actions are also just an image. So it means that half of your visitors, half of your readers will not even see your call to action.
That's a very good point. I mean, when you open your physical mailbox and you have like 10 flyers and brochures that are designed and you get one handwritten note, which one are you reading first?
Yeah,
like, it's a no-brainer. You're going to read the one that looks made by human. Now, we kind of touched on that. People in marketing are trying to reinvent the wheel, obviously, with these things, with the video backgrounds. I know you. I know that's a word that triggers you. I'll keep repeating it. So why? Like, why do people in marketing, like, let's try to understand, why does that even happen? Because
education.
It shouldn't, right? Education.
Yep.
Okay.
For me, it's the number one. And on those stages, I don't have time to go deeper into that, but I think it has to do with education. The marketing books are still the same.
Okay.
Well, most marketing books, well, here in Belgium, I don't know, the rest of the world are still the same since the 80s and the 90s.
Probably. Yeah.
So we didn't know a lot of things that we now know. Internet didn't exist in those days. So we're still, I think, it's most people, that's what I said. It's like the shouting for attention. It's like, oh, it should be beautiful. How many times? And I misuse the word beautiful because, once again, a lot of people think that, especially I'm the old style UX persons like Norman Nielsen, and so they also get the critics like, yeah, but if all websites are like the ones that you promote, life will be boring. And I don't agree with that. Every website should be visually pleasing and right spot on in line with the brand. So a hotel website like booking.com is perfect for booking.com. They've been testing that for years. I'm not saying that every website should be a copy of booking.com, because there's a big difference if you're like just a cheap B&B or you're like the whatever Ritz-Carlton. Is that the name of a posh hotel? It sounds like a posh hotel. So those websites will look completely different. But I think, to come back to your question, that education really is a problem. I'm a guest teacher at some universities and high school coaches, but it's only like half a day or 3 hours. But when I come in those classes, I'm like, fuck you, you've been learning the wrong things for the last 2 or 3 years, for partially. You see some evolution there, but it's already for 10 or 15 years. I said, yeah, you are the next generation, please make it change. But then these young people probably
do the same thing,
right? They learn something, but then they come in those, especially the big corporations, where again it's like, yeah, every company is thinking from inside out. And not every company, but most companies, and that's the problem. So it's education. It's still the old idea. When I was young, I remember those days. There were some dinosaurs walking around in my garden. And especially my parents, but when I grew up, we were blind with the same bank for all our life. And I was a client from the same bank as my parents. Same with medical insurance. Because there was not a lot of choice. That was it. And you went to the supermarket and you went to the same supermarket brand for all your life. That has changed since 25 years. But I think a lot of companies they still have the internal mindset, yeah, but we can force our vision, our IT upon the customer. No, not true. The customer is now in the driver's seat.
Really, really good point. Also, what you said about the websites, if every website was the way you like them, life would be boring. If that makes your life boring, try some hobbies. Try some hobbies or do something.
And especially, they always think, your website is just a website. It's a tool. And it's an important one to make people aware of your products so that they're able to buy your services or products. But they should be able to buy your products or service. And your website should answer the questions of your customers. And of course, there should be a lot of branding in there, but
but branding is
a lot of companies the other way around.
Branding is a lot more than just.
And I hate, because apparently, especially in my language, when I say the word branding, most of the time there's some like branding, but branding is important. But you have like different, If you do branding right, it's amazing. If you do branding wrong,
absolutely.
The corporate vision, it's like so out of date.
Absolutely, and it should be about the customer still, and we'll talk about the customer and about the brand further later in this episode. But so the main topic here is something you talked about at Conversion, the conference formerly known as Conversion Hotel. So there's going to be there might be a new name this year. It's what
formerly known as formerly known as formerly known as formerly known.
There we go. Until he hits the character limit on the domain or something like that. You talked about not testing everything, basically. And of course, we all started learning about optimization, and you should test that. The book, the mantra, like, you should test that. You should test that.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts. I have my thoughts as well that I would like to share with you, but I want to hear your thoughts on why this is wrong. Why testing everything is wrong, or forcing people to test everything is wrong.
Forcing all people to believe that you should test everything is wrong. Different reasons. First reason is, well, let's go. No, I will change the order of the reasons, because first reason is not everybody lives in America or Canada or Germany. No, because that book, you should test that, is a great book. And when I read it, I was like, truly convinced of that. But I live in Belgium. I don't know, take a map of the world and try to find a pin that is not bigger than our country on that map. Because most of the time when you put a pin on Belgium, you can't see Belgium anymore. And then the lovely thing about Belgium...
You can
That's why I said you have to have like a paper map, like a good old globe.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Belgium is that we have two languages. So we have like 6 million people speaking Flemish, Dutch, and 5 billion. Otherwise it would be very strange. And the French part, good luck if you want to test everything. Even for the biggest brands here in Belgium that are focused on the Belgian market, sometimes when it's like a test that is not based on language, so we can do it in both languages, it will succeed. But sometimes we have tests that we can only do in the Flemish part and not in the French part because it's not enough. We don't have enough people. So in that case, you can't test everything. Every test should be the best test because we only have a bandwidth of like 12, 20, 40 A/B tests a year. So please, in that case, don't test everything. Don't do the stupid things. And the second reason, and that's why I'm so always convinced of don't do the stupid tests, is conversion optimization is, it's not the new kid on the block because it exists for, what, 15 years, something?
15, 20, something like that.
We do A/B testing, that the software. I think I did the first A/B test around 2010, 2011. Okay. But before that, I was a UX specialist. I'm still am. And before me, there were older people like Don Norman, Jacob Nielsen, in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. They did a lot of research about user experience in general on computers, but also on forms. Somebody made me aware that in the UK, there's like a booklet, and it's from the 60s about how to create forms that people want to fill in.
But that's the physical,
paper forms.
Printed, yes, paper forms, okay.
And if you read those rules, it's 90% of it you can just pull and they're still true. So our discipline is not new. We know a lot of things. UX fundamentals, I call them. Fundamental rules. And we don't have to test them. We need to educate all those people in CRO about user experience and that they know the difference between what is a best practice, because a best practice is what we see on many websites. That's not a best practice. That's probably bullshit. And really UX fundamental rules. Like the one I said in the beginning. It's not about the slide. It's not about the flash intro. It's not about the video background. It's about the basic principle. Don't charge for attention. Give attention. And that one will never change. If the world, I hope the world will still exist in 100 years, if we're not all burned alive, that fundamental rule, whatever are we doing, maybe we're not looking at screens anymore, but that rule, when it comes to marketing, will still exist. And that's something we have to learn, all these things. Because that means that, first of all, our websites would be better to start with. So we don't have to do those stupid tests anymore. And that we can use the limited bandwidth that most companies have, because we're not all booking.coms and the Netflixes of this world, that we can use them to change the mindset, the behavior of our clients. The behavior will not be changed by changing a slider with some patches of images instead of the slider.
Some Apple Vision thing that you can just move left and right.
It's simply, how do you sell your products? And that's with words, it's with a message. And it's not about, shall we replace the square corners with rounded corners on our images?
This is something that you call cosmetic surgery in CRO. The square corners and rounded corners.
Yeah.
I'll just add the thing you said, giving attention versus demanding attention. This is not a business rule. Like, this is a way to live. And this is a way, hopefully, everybody can live. And it's not about websites. It's not about sliders. It's just about honoring the person ahead of you and just respecting them enough to care about what they have to say. Cosmetic surgery in CRO is what I want you to get upset about next.
I don't know if changing the color of a button is cosmetic surgery, but I think it is. It's a stupid. For me, most of the time, it's a stupid test. Yes, Karl, did you hear about the test with the 50 colors of Google? Yeah, that was a stupid test. Yes, but we changed our color and we had a big uplift. So I see those reactions still on LinkedIn and it gets me mad. And it's not by, it's by famous people in our industry sometimes. It's like, but then I ask, can you show me a screenshot? And then I see a screenshot of a gray website with a gray button. And they changed the gray button with a button you can see. And they say, like, see, I changed the color and it worked. Yeah, it should never have been a gray button on a gray website, because every designer, every copywriter, every project manager, everybody involved in that website should have had the education or should have read the books by Jacob Nielsen, Don Norman, Baymart Institute, that there should not be a gray button. We should not have gray buttons or stupid colors on our website. And there will always be an exception because there's also, but I think that this. Yeah, of course, there's all. But if those UX fundamental rules, they will work on 99% of the website. So please, put them through. If you have the bandwidth of Booking.com, you can play around with your colors. Yes, bye. But do other things too. And if you don't have the bandwidth of so many tests, don't. Sometimes you need to do an A/B test. If you can't prove that your client or the internal company, you have to do a slider test. But normally, we should not do those things. And the rounded corners is really something that we heard a few years ago.
That was not a joke. That was real. Like someone actually.
Yeah, that was real. It was somebody in our workshop from a big brand in the UK. And I said, yeah, you're doing A/B tests, but they don't.
What do you
They
learn?
don't change. And I said, okay, show me your latest test. And the latest test was indeed, they had square corners and on the images, and they made them rounded corners because they have read somewhere that a rounded corner gives a soft impression for the client and the visitor. And that's also the bullshit, because that's also one of the problems, that a lot of people don't know the UX fundamental rules and the bullshit rules, because there's a lot of bullshit out there. Lately, a few months ago, we came, one of our Belgian clients is, well, the biggest, or the second, no, it's the biggest supermarket chain here in Belgium. And they also had like, yeah, can you help us with our A/B test? I said, okay, show me our latest A/B test. And the A/B test was called Banner Test 30B. So you know that they have done at least 31 already. It was already 30B tests on one banner. I was like, okay, we will change the way you approach A/B tests. And don't do those stupid things. The things that really make an impact on your business and changes the mindset, or makes the life of your customer easier. The life of your customer doesn't become easier because the button on the banner is now on the left-hand side of the banner or the right-hand side. That's blah.
It's cosmetic, like you said. But
sometimes it will make a difference, but then you have your next banner and then you have to start over again. Or in 2 years' time, you make a new website, you have to start over again. And I think that not all A/B tests, but most A/B tests should be more profound and should be learnings that you can not only just use for this version of the website, but that you can use in your company, and maybe not only online, but also in your other marketing efforts, in the way you try to sell your products. That's about the deep understanding of the customers. That's the power we have with online, that we can measure those things. But it should be ideas that, it doesn't change the company sometimes, but it changes the culture, it changes the perception, the way you sell your product.
I think you said, well, if you're not learning from doing a test or from doing anything on your website, you're probably doing it wrong, because to get that 7% uplift or whatever, what do you, maybe it just drops the next month. You have no idea. My thing about testing everything and like the whole you should test that mantra, if you have the bandwidth, sure. And
of course,
a few companies do, but we're not representing those few companies, and most people
most of the time
will never. My thing is, be intentional with every detail on your website. So if you have some sentence in the cart or in the checkout page or in the contact, be intentional about why it's there. So don't just inherit UX from the platform you're using and just say that's okay, and the follow-up emails that the platform sends. You cannot test everything, but if you're not intentional about every single touch point in the website, you have a problem. Like this is
why it's so important. That part is like, well, it's not the big why, but it's like, why is it there?
Yep.
Does this element contribute or not? Do you know it's all elements on that page? Why is it there? Have we ever tested it?
And then learning that you're wrong and that you were wrong is fine. But at least start with a hypothesis that we need this because, and let's just end it.
And do your research.
Well, of course. A few questions for the end. And I know you like this. Why do customers buy from you? Why is it so important to know this and to learn this as a brand?
Because if you don't know why your customers become your customer, you're just gambling and you don't have any connection with your customer. So I think it's incredibly important to understand those two things. Why do they buy from you? Why don't they buy from you? And the why do they buy from you is not only the big reason. It's not only the big why behind the company. It's also, why do they want, I don't know, a new Nespresso machine, or why do they want a new car? Just to understand it. Why do they want a carport? But also, if you sell software, we have some clients in the software industry. Sales is like, and that's typical, but it's not only for software companies, but a lot of companies, when they talk about their products or their services, they have like a list of 30 features and 30 benefits. Oh, I even remember a bank, a bank, and they had an insurance, a car insurance. And I think the car insurance had like 23 benefits. I was like, it's not impossible. What are the most important ones? What are the ones that make a difference with your competitors? For the software industry, we recently had a client, and they had like a long, very long page. And then we started the customers. Okay, what is the main benefit of this software for you? Why did you buy it? Why did you extend your subscription? And from that long list, there were only like 5-6 features that really stood out. It's also, give attention, don't charge for attention. It's like what in our industry, and I didn't invent it, it's like the top tasks of visitors, which is related to jobs to be done, but top task is all of it. It's so important. The top tasks on their website, but also the top reasons why do they use the software. So from that long list, we only kept those 6 most important features, and sales started to move on again. And then if you change it into the words of the customer, because that's the second thing we often see that goes wrong, it's like companies talk with their words and they say, we don't use jargon, but you still do. You still use your own words. But you have to ask your customers, okay, describe this in your words. What is the most important benefit for you? And then sometimes they will, in this case, for example, it was like something SEO related. And they had like a redirect manager. So if you delete a page from your website, they made like a redirection in the background so that you don't have an error 404 error in Google, whatever. But they were always talking, the company was talking, it includes a redirection manager. Almost none of the customers said, what I really like about this software is the redirection manager. They said like, what I really like is when I delete a page from my WordPress website, I don't have a broken link. I don't have any dead links anymore. So like, so the main reason to buy the software is no more dead links when you edit your website. Don't use the technical words. And those 2 things are so important that you can never be your customers. It's impossible. It is impossible to be your own customer. So you have to ask your customers. You can do it with online surveys. You can just, if you only have 10 clients, pick up your phone, do a short interview. Remember those things.
But like you said in those slides, sorry to jump in, stop selling the way you want to sell the way people want to buy. I mean, this is just a perfect explanation. And
that's it.
The redirects and dead links. I think I know which WordPress plugin we're talking about that I've been using for more than a decade. I spent 10 years as a WordPress developer, so I know really well what this is. It's the color purple or burgundy or whatever it is plugin. They're not sponsoring, so we're not mentioning it, but it's a great plugin. I love that. And also, what do the users and customers like about you as a brand? Like, that's kind of a next level, and why they choose you for their needs.
So sometimes it's the big reasons, it's like the overall thing, sometimes it's product oriented. And also the opposite question, why don't they buy, is also important. Also, for the big reasons, and sometimes it can be true. Like one of our supermarket clients, their supermarkets, they look very cheap, but also their products are cheap. Personally, I don't go shopping there because it looks cheap. But if that's the answer, why don't you buy from brand X? And they say like, your supermarket looks so cheap. It's not like a normal supermarket. It's like, cool. That's what we are. Because all the people that buy from us, they say like, I can see that that the reason why you are cheap is because you're not spending money to make your supermarket like, very nice. And then you're like, so it's because you don't have to please everybody, because that's also something we use. Like, with all your user research, the why do and the why don't, you want to please everyone. No, we don't want to please everyone. We just want to know, is the position, because that's more than branding, is the positioning right on? Why not? And then on the product level, we also don't want to sell the product to everyone. We want to sell the product to everybody who is interested in that product, who wants, without knowing it, buy that product. And then we want to know what's holding you back and why are you buying it.
That's a really good point. And on that note, let's end this, I would say, fascinating and interesting conversation. I mean, cool. there are a lot of things that trigger people in CRO industry. I'm one of those people. You're clearly one of those people after this conversation. And I love the passion. Let me just
It's the most fascinating job in the world. I don't know a lot of other jobs, but it's amazing.
I love the passion. I love the passion of CRO people in general, and you specifically. So on that note, Karl, thank you. This was a huge pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. And to everyone listening to this episode, please consider rating, reviewing, sharing, whatever you do with podcasts, and I will talk to you next week.